Go ahead, Brendan. Have the it's surprise not only the pick, but for the team for you with Phoenix at 11.
I thought that Cam Johnson was definitely going in the first round. I had no idea he was going this high. And then the fit to Phoenix. Everybody up here to a man probably thinks that Phoenix needs a point guard. Am I right? And then they end up taking Cam Johnson. Now, they do get a dynamic shooter. The fit is a little bit questionable because they did take Josh Jackson a couple years previous before that. But I just don't really understand the fit. But I will say this. Cam Johnson is ready to play right now. He can put the ball on the floor. He's not the best athlete in the world, but he doesn't have to be because he understands how to play. He understands screening, slipping the screen, where to be on the court. Was the best shooter in the ACC this season, and it wasn't even close. His stroke is a thing of beauty.
Yeah, he moved up essentially from Pitt to North Carolina in the ACC. Got better every year of his college basketball career. But I would say this. I think we have to caution ourselves about fit because we don't know. This screams a movement here for Phoenix.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Andy, but this also screams to me that they might be getting their point guard in free agency. Because, you look, their need is a point guard, but Cam can flat out shoot the basketball. Cam's a winner. Whether he's with the Phoenix Suns or not, he has this type of talent. Surprised that he went this high, but I like him. I've always told Brendan, here's a kid that's a winner, and I like to pick for him wherever he ends up. But I think the Phoenix Suns might be getting their point guard in free agency.
Look, two things. This is way higher than you go to any mock anywhere that Cam was supposed to be. So that's interesting for Andy, whether it's Phoenix or whoever would trade in. And the crazy part, and I hate to use that word, but Tom, to Brendan's point, they went out of a spot where you could have gotten a point guard. Now, there are rumors maybe Kyrie comes here and D'Angelo Russell could be a guy perhaps. They got some money. But why would they move out of a pick they could have drafted their point guard into a spot where they got a guy seemingly way higher than people expected? You figure that?
We've asked the question why about Phoenix every year. And they've had the hardest time trying to find a signature player and trying to find something to build around. Guys, I see Cam as fitting in on a good team. He's ready to come in and be a prototypical stretch four who's knocking down meaningful shots. At 23 years old, he's ready. It's just very curious to have him go there where because he's not going to be a feature player that way. He's much more of a big-time complementary player on a better team, which you'd see later in, like, the teams.
Well, yeah, my last year in Cleveland, I got a chance to play with James Jones, who is now in charge of making decisions in Phoenix. Hey, James, man, you got to holler at me, man. I don't know what you're doing, brother.
So that's why
He reminds you of James Jones, the way he plays.
Yeah.
a player like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, okay, he might have made more sense because he had to play the 1 and the 2 for Virginia Tech this past season. He was ranked, for what you believe, higher than Cam Johnson here in the lottery. When Justin Robinson went down from Virginia Tech, he had to play the 1. So had Phoenix selected him at this spot, that might have made more sense.
Well, the idea of Kobe White, too, is a guy with Devin Booker. When you look at this team, they have some shooters. But remember also this about today, because we talked about reported deals, right? They moved T.J. Warren today, right, to Indiana. Again, not official till the 6th of July. There you go. But when you look at it, Tom, that, to your point, B. Wood said when we were all, hey, look, I'd be in on T.J. Warren. That dude is a bucket getter. You put him in he's not Lou Williams, but he gets buckets. So it's been from the beginning of the day to now an interesting one for Phoenix.
And just sliding back. If you go back from 6, you got to get whatever you thought you could get at 6 at this position. And they gave up the chance at 6 to get their choice sort of what they need. So it's a head scratcher.
Phoenix is going to Phoenix. That's the one thing that we're seeing right now. And like I said, I think Cam is going to help this team. I think he's going to bring shooting in. When you look at him and Booker, they're definitely going to have some shooting on that court. But the fit is a little bit head-scratching, especially when they could have gotten a point guard, maybe a guy like Kobe White that you could pair with Booker, and then you can set your backcourt for the future. Phoenix is going to have to explain this big. James Jones, holler at me, man. You still got my number, brother.
The backcourt of the future may be in question for Charlotte. What about Kemba, their best all-time player? The Hornets right now.
The Charlotte Hornets missed the playoffs in the 18-19 season and could potentially miss much more with their all-star point guard Kemba Walker being an unrestricted free agent this summer. The Hornets haven't made the playoffs in 7 of the last 9 seasons, and Walker, the Hornets' all-time leader in points, three-pointers, and minutes played, is eligible for the Supermax extension after being named to third-team All-NBA. However, he is expected to explore free agency. Charlotte's backcourt depth took a hit, with the future Hall of Famer Tony Parker announcing his retirement. After winning 39 games last season, James Borrego heads into his second season as Hornets head coach with 3 picks in the 2019 NBA Draft, where the Hornets will try to add more young pieces alongside the likes of Malik Monk and Miles Bridges.
All right, so the pick is in, and it is P.J. Washington who ends up with the Hornets. Smitty, how do you feel about P.J. and then the fit with Charlotte?
You know, I like it. I think that PJ, you know, if they keep Kemba, they need somebody that can score. This kid can play down on the block. He's only 6'8", but he plays bigger than 6'8". I like that he can step out. I think for him is, can he handle himself defensively and ruggedly down on the post as a 4? But I love the selection. He's a winner. He plays extremely hard. He has great athleticism. They need a guy that can score, and I thought this was a good pick.
Smitty, I love the pick. I love the fact that he's improved from his freshman year to his sophomore year, especially as a three-point shooter. 23% from 3 as a freshman, 42% as a sophomore in 78 attempts. So he's proven that, hey, I have the ability to improve, get better from behind the three-point line. But then he can get rough and tumble down there in the paint. Really, really strong, led Kentucky in scoring, and they ran a lot of their offense through him. And they weren't trying to disguise it. They were straight turn forward, throw the ball to PJ, let him go one-on-one, get to his left shoulder and cause a problem. So I like the fact that he can cause a problem in the paint, but he's showing you he's willing to work on his jumper and get better behind the three-point line.
To that point, I love the fact that he knew he wasn't ready last year. You know, the easy thing at Kentucky is just go after 1 year. He knew he wasn't ready, improved himself in the offseason, became more physically stronger, improved his offensive game, more emotionally mature for this kind of a situation. And then in the NCAA tournament, he didn't think he was going to play in that last game when he got hurt, and he's a gamer. He made sure he got out there. They ended up losing in overtime, but it wasn't because of him. So, I mean, he's a player I think can come in and help Charlotte next season.
On a day where, not shockingly, it began with the news that a Kentucky alum from 2012 in the draft, MKG, would opt back in. I know, shocking everyone at the table.
He should have announced that at the end of the season.
It is 7 years later that now it's another Kentucky kid in PJ for a team that, let's be fair, Tom, has that huge Kemba question looming. I don't know what else you could do to say I want to be there than what Kemba's done to this point.
It's bigger than that. I mean, Kemba, you got Jeremy Lamb, you saw Tony Parker retired. They have so many questions in free agency, and to take a player like this, at least to plug a void out there, have a young body that's going to be able to play, makes some sense. You know, Charlotte's one of these teams that's sort of stuck. I mean, they're going to have to get Kemba Walker back, because if he leaves, they don't have the cap room to replace him. Just because he goes and takes $33 million somewhere else doesn't mean they have a $33 million slot to get somebody else, because they're committed to Batum and Biyombo and Marvin Williams, all big money, and all that adds up. So,
you know what? It might be the best thing in the world for Kemba and Charlotte if he left, because even if you sign Kemba to big money, you're still stuck in no man's land. At least if Kemba were to go on to free agency, it would help his career. He'd get a chance to compete for a title right now, and then they would clear that money off the books, and as the years go by, clear some of this other money off and start over. I almost think that Charlotte has to hit the reset button, because I don't know what they are right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, B-Wood, but like what Casey said, it's humbling to hear a guy like Kemba Walker, rumors that I would take less to stay with Charlotte. I am just looking to see what Charlotte does. To your thing, B-Wood, what's their direction, and why don't you want to keep a guy like Kemba Walker who wants to be there?
But, you know, I feel like we said the same kind of thing about Orlando a few years ago. Like, how far away is Charlotte from being Orlando?
how excited are you about Orlando?
Yeah,
I'm not that excited, but at least they were in the playoffs. They were in the playoffs.
Yeah, Orlando made the playoffs, but it wasn't nothing. It wasn't anything to write home about. So I don't think Charlotte's trying to be Orlando. I think what they're trying to do is figure out a way how they can be relevant again in the NBA. And I know Kemba wants to stay there to a certain degree. He said he'd take less. I know the city of Charlotte loves Kemba Walker. But the thing is, if you pay Kemba Walker $221 million, or even if he takes a slight pay cut and takes $200, what do you do next? You still have some of these bad contracts with Batum, MKG, and Bismack Biyombo on your books. How do you resolve that?
Only for one more year, though.
Yeah. But even so, okay, they clear some of that money. How do they get better? I honestly think a mutual split would be the best situation where Kemba goes to possibly win a title somewhere or could at least compete for a title. He hasn't been out of the second round of his whole career, and then Charlotte gets to start over.
But do you think, Tom, because a lot of these players have 1 year left, they could be tradable because teams will want to pick up some of that money just for 1 year?
Could be, but then you got to get players that are on Kemba's timetable. That are, Atlanta's lining up with a bunch of youngs. New Orleans is lining up with a bunch of youngs. Here you'd have Kemba and all the money with him. So you'd have to do veteran for veteran trades like you're talking about and try to rejigger this thing in a way. And I don't know how relevant that makes them in the NBA.
Remember this trade deadline where it was suited this year? All-Star game in Charlotte, couldn't move him. It's that PR thing. But should they have if you weren't sure that you were going to sign him and gotten something for Kemba instead of nothing? Miami, they've gotten the most out of their roster, but still seems somewhere in that mid-drift in the East.